Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncivil Law. And for today's story, we pick up where we left off in the ongoing lawsuit between Blake Lively and Baldoni. This is a Me Too case. Baldoni has been accused of Me Too, and Baldoni has struck back with an amended complaint and provided receipts and evidence relating to how he didn't really do the Me Too and how it's all a bunch of bullshit. So we have been working our way through the amended complaint. And we're going to pick up where we left off. We are currently on page 39 of the amended complaint, and we pick up at point E where we left off, and we'll go proceed from there. During the labor strikes, Lively moved to seek absolute power. Again, going to this idea that Blake Lively was trying to be basically the production. In addition to being the actress, she wanted to be the director, producer, editor, and basically have total control over the movie. And she was insufferable, basically, is what is being said there. So we'll pick that up. On May 2nd of 2023, the Writers Guild of America went on strike. Production for the film halted temporarily on June 14th, 2023, due to picketing. The next day, production was notified that WGA had agreed not to picket the set, allowing production to continue. But Lively was already gone and refused to return to production. Wayfair reworked the shooting schedule at great expense to film the scenes with younger versions of the characters instead of footage requiring Lively. On June 27th of 2023, production shut down entirely for the pendency of the strike. The strike soon followed, beginning on July the 14th of 2023. To make the most of the time during the strike, Baldoni began editing the film they had captured to date, starting the director's process of turning the footage into film. So it's like, well, we can't film, but we can edit what we have. So, we might as well get started on something and use this time productively. Lively expressed excitement over returning to the shoot in the fall of New York, making no mention of any discomfort or harassment that would be brought up only later, after months of being apart on the day the strikes ended. Both before and during the strikes, Lively's eager involvement in the production took on a more insistent and manipulative tone as she accessed for dailies and early cuts of scenes, both inappropriate and unorthodox requests. Saying, quotes from Lively to Baldoni, saying, quote, "Hey, would you mind giving me access to dailies? I'm curious which of takes you liked of the scenes you showed. My manager flew out to visit the set and leaves tomorrow morning. He heard all about it from somebody and loved to show him. I appreciate you may be too slammed right now to make it happen, but maybe someone else can facilitate. Thanks so much." She wants to see what's being filmed. Remember, she's an actress, not an editor or producer. So it's a bit of an odd request. Okay. From Blake Lively to Baldoni. "Hey, I hope you and your family well. I've watched the selects you sent. So great. I was happy and energized. Such solid work from everyone on and off camera. It was really cool to see. We were working so quickly. There was never time to look back. It was so nice to revisit from an audience's perspectives. Please let me know who to reach out to get access to full gallery of dailies. I'm so looking forward to seeing all we have in the can. And of course, any scene you cut together, I'd love to see. Hope you're having a good summer and hopefully a good edit. Will your assembly be done soon?" Wayfair, Baldoni, and another producer on the film strategized about how to respond to Lively, which had become common practice so as to not trigger backlash. The text exchange below demonstrates adamant objection to giving Lively the dailies. Not only is it inappropriate overreach because she's not a producer, editor, or director, so why does she need to say the dailies? But there was really concern that the simple ask, such as rewriting a couple scenes, would turn to a complete takeover, rewriting the script. We're concerned that she's just trying to get a foot in the door and wants even more than she's asking. We're concerned by giving her a foot in the door. It will lead to more things. Yep. They rightly feared giving her the daily could turn into demanding to edit the whole movie, which is exactly what happened, which is also pretty weird. And then from the producer, in response to the request we read earlier, they said, "I say no, but check your contract first. I was waiting for so-and-so to respond. It's absolute no for me as well. Respectfully, not sure the best way to respond, being how delicate it is. I think you can either not respond until tomorrow." So they're all a little bit worried about her throwing a temper tantrum and being a prima donna. Maybe we can let this be Sony's decision. Lol. And you can respond with that for now. Justin Baldoni said, thank you, spoke to somebody. I think I'm just going to say yes and send her a playlist, a bunch of good takes from different scenes for the last 3 or 4 days. So-and-so said no. We all said no and you're going to send? No, she liked the idea of a playlist. No access to all the dailies. I wasn't clear in the text. Okay. Okay, makes sense. Basically, send her a playlist of what I showed her agent. And then if or when she responds and says, can you send me over everything? What I say is I'm not comfortable with that as I haven't even seen everything. So-and-so believes that she will then start to edit the movie and tell me which takes to use if she has access to everything. The producer's saying, yes, I agree with that. The producers are concerned about being taken over. Also, this is exactly how the writing process started. She asked if it was okay if she could take a pass at some of the dialogue tweaks. Just spoke to Blake. She's in very good spirits. So basically, we've already been down this road. Can I take a look at the script? I have concerns about the script. Can I rewrite the script? Are you a writer? No, you're an actress. But I'd like to rewrite the script. And now she wants access to the dailies, and we're concerned about her turning herself into an editor, which also happened. After consulting internally as how to respond, Baldoni politely pushed back, explaining that it was much too early in editing to share that much footage. Baldoni to Lively saying the following thing. Baldoni to Blake Lively saying the following thing. Hi, sorry for the slow response. Yes, family is good. Brutal being away for so long and happy that we're finally together. Lots happening. All good things overall. Had to hire new editors who I adore. They're going through everything now. I'm so happy you felt energized by everything you saw. Your performance is really, really beautiful. Stunning, actually. Regarding the dailies, obviously I want your input. That's why I sent the 5-hour playlist. But at this point, it's too early for me to share all the dailies. I start my cut in early August, given the new editors, and I'm still going through the rest myself. Also figuring out our shooting plan as I have to cut and combine and find new ways to scale down for the budget. Once I'm physically in edit and will have touch screens myself, I'd love to share with you. So it's too early for me to share all this information. That's not just where we are right now. Whether or not that's what's true, that's what they're going to tell her. Because, this isn't her role. So all that stuff, man. At this point, Lively reluctantly played nominal lip service to the notion that Baldoni, the film's director, was entitled to time and space needed for his directorial cut, but continued to push. Lively saying, quote, I don't want to infringe on your time with your cut, of course. Don't feel the need to send me cutscenes. I was just excited to see. Regarding dailies, none of the producers have access to dailies. It's just you. Yeah. Baldoni shared limited access with Lively, feeling uncomfortable all the while, yet he already knew he had to bow down to Lively's demands in order to get the film and its powerful message. Finally, he put his foot down, sending Lively one final scene and then telling her he'd not be sending any more until the cut was finished. Sending this following message. Sorry, back-to-back meetings. All good. Love the excitement. I'm excited to show you when the time is right. No, not just me. Blank and Jamie have access to daily, but no assembly or cuts. So basically, you're not getting any more. Happy birthday, Blake. Coincidentally, today's the last day of my edit, and we're in the closing room until shoot again. It's been wildly successful, and I'm so happy. You're so fantastic in the film. I've been sending you over my favorite sections. I won't be posting or sending anything to anyone after this, but I'm excited to show you more in person when we come back. Please watch before Sunday as all PIX accounts get shut down on Monday until we're back up. Can't wait to hear what you think. Have an amazing day. Yeah, it sounds like things are a little bit tense over here in their relationship. The strike ended on September the 27th, and SAG strike ended on November 9th. Months before, Baldoni had made Lively's representative aware that they would continue pre-production in order to hit the ground running when the strike ended, which makes sense, right? When you can't film, you do what you can. It's like, if I can't film, what can I do? Can I edit? Can I do other pre-production work? What can I do so that we can, maximize our time? It makes logical sense. But Lively and her lawyers have been busy devising other plans during the strike. The same day that the SAG strike ended, Baldoni, the studios, and producers were eager to resume production. I bet they were, right? I bet they were. We can finally get back to doing our job. Instead, they were met with an email from Lively's lawyer, who sent Wayfarer an unsettling and unexpected 17-point list of non-negotiable conditions that must be met before Lively would return to work. It's like, you have a contract. You got to do your job, man. The stunning list was drafted for the apparent purpose of insinuating or outright claiming that Baldoni, Heath, and others had engaged in sexually inappropriate conduct during the filming. Nothing could be further from the truth. Signs of trouble to come. So we have some emails to show this. I do like how Baldoni it's a very bold choice, but I do like it when you can do it as a lawyer. Again, in a complaint, you don't need to really show any of your evidence. You need to make representations that you have the evidence. You can't just make stuff up, but you can just be like, in an email, they said certain things. You don't actually need to show the emails, but it's a real power move. It's a real power move by Baldoni's lawyers to say, I'm not afraid and let me show you this stuff. It's like dumping this much stuff in the complaint is a real power move. So unusual, but I do appreciate it because it makes things a little bit easier for us to follow and also assess. So apparently here is an email to the Wayfarer team from Lively's counsel, which says the following thing. With tentative resolution of the SAG strike, we're writing to express how to handle return to the set of It Ends With Us. It's no surprise to the film's producers that the experience of shooting the film has been deeply concerning on many levels. Apparently it was a surprise. The complaints of our client and others have been repeatedly conveyed and well documented through pre-production and photography. While we reserve all legal rights, at this stage our client is willing to forego a more formal HR process in favor of everyone returning to work and finishing the film as long as the set is safe moving forward. In order for our client to feel safe, by the way, that's different from being safe, I'd like to point out. Feeling safe, those are not the same thing. In order for our client to feel safe returning to production, we are attaching a list of protections that will need to be guaranteed and observed by the film production. If production is unwilling to accept or uphold these protections, our client is prepared to pursue her full legal rights and remedies. This letter is not intended to constitute a full statement of all facts and circumstances relating to this matter. It's not intended to be short, nor should it be construed as a waiver, release, or relinquishment of any of our client's rights or remedies, legal or equitable, all of which are hereby reserved. So basically saying, give us what you want or we're going to make your life incredibly difficult. Both Wayfarer and Sony attempted to revise the document to make it more factually accurate, being that the representation of set culture was inaccurate, and sent comments through Wayfarer's attorney. But Lively's counsel's response made it clear it was not open to negotiation, saying, quote, to the Wayfarer team from Lively's counsel, the list we were provided was not intended as a starting point for negotiation. Rather, it's a set of protections that need to be in place in order for our client to return to work. Please let us know as soon as possible whether Wayfarer will agree to accept all the protections included in the original communication, including without limitation 11 and 12, with the following additional clarifications. Number 14, in addition to a stunt double, Wayfarer to engage BL-approved body doubles for both characters for all simulated sex scenes. 15, the requirement applies to any future filming as well as any footage that's already been shot. 16, we can limit this requirement to scenes involving nudity, potential nudity, and or simulated sex. So not necessarily willing to play with others. Basically a list of demands. Take it or, we stuff things up and then we can go to lawsuits and everything, but your film won't get made. So, not playing well with others. It was clear that Wayfarer would have to sign the document as is despite the falsity of the insinuations. The alternative was to lose millions of dollars, cause hundreds of people their jobs after they'd been working out for months, and destroy their relationship with Sony. Nonetheless, the demands themselves were agreeable. Indeed, some of them were already in place. To illustrate the distorted and downright fictional basis for the 17-point list of demands, each of them will be addressed in turn. So we're going to go through them one at a time and show you why they are in fact all bullshit. With respect to point A, intimacy coordinator. Lively demanded an intimacy coordinator be present at all times when Lively was on set. In fact, an intimacy coordinator had already been engaged during the first half of production, so Wayfarer took no issue with the request itself, despite both Lively and her attorney knowingly insinuating there was none. On or about March 20th, nearly 2 months before filming began, Baldoni met with the intimacy coordinator, and in early April 2023, more than 6 weeks before production commenced, she was engaged. The intimacy coordinator had been hired 6 weeks before production even started. Lively was aware, as Baldoni had informed her on or about April 6th. Lively attorneys was also aware, as documented in the May 8th emails between her and Wayfarer's attorney, with which Wayfarer provided the intimacy coordinator approved nudity rider, followed by written confirmation of the approval. And then we see an email to that effect between the attorneys. coordinating that issue. Although the presence of an intimacy coordinator is not a Screen Actor Guild rule, but rather a recommendation, Baldoni was eager to engage one from the start to ensure talent, himself included, felt safe during intimacy scenes. It does sound like a best practice to me. Baldoni was eager to engage one from the start to ensure he felt safe, or was safe, more to the point. It was also important for him that the intimacy coordinator be a woman to help craft sex scenes that would speak to the mostly female audience of the book, be written from the female gaze. A fact Lively later mocked in both her complaint and the human rights complaint. Given both Lively and Reynolds' firsthand knowledge of these facts, Lively's insistence that the return to production demands on constant presence of an intimacy coordinator was baffling. However, because Wayfarer had already engaged an intimacy coordinator and had no issue with the request because we were already doing it anyway, and given the request came with the threat that Lively would not come back, Wayfarer acquiesced. It's like, you're not asking us to do anything that we aren't already doing, so I guess. The acquiescence, given with the written caveat that Wayfarer disagreed with the characterization, was later used by Lively to falsely suggest acknowledgement there had not been intimacy coordinator at all, which is some bullshit. As to point number 2, limiting review of intimacy scene footage to those with essential business reasons. Given that this is already standard practice in the film industry and practice on this film set, Wayfarer readily agreed to the demand, though without any reason to believe that the demand was made in responsive to any appropriate conduct. Despite having filmed for over a month, and despite having provided a nudity rider an opportunity to negotiate, finalize, and sign, Lively never asked for this to be a closed set. However, production always adhered to this and had no problem agreeing to the demand. For clarity, no intimacy scene was ever shot prior to November the 9th of 2023. Therefore, under no circumstance did Lively shoot an intimacy scene without a nudity rider, which would be pretty hard, right? If there were no intimate scenes, then it doesn't really matter if there weren't a rider because there's nothing to be there a rider with respect to. So it doesn't matter. The one simulated nude scene filmed prior to the strike break was a scene that Lively wrote, knew of in advance, and directed the action for, and never requested a nudity rider or intimacy coordinator for that scene. It was her idea. She was the one who suggested it, and she was the one that was directing that part of it. So we don't know what you're talking about. This demand, as written, suggests nudes or intimate scenes were filmed with non-essential personnel present. Later in her complaint, Lively alleges that during the scene, the birthing scene, she was mostly nude with her legs spread wide in stirrups and only a small piece of fabric covering her genitals, and that there were non-essential persons present. This allegation is knowingly false. To begin with, to describe Lively as mostly nude and naked from the chest down is dishonest. Lively was wearing black briefs and a pregnancy suit that covered her midsection, and her top was covered by a hospital gown. Her legal complaint deliberately suggests that she was wearing a small piece of nude fabric glued around her genitals by stating this is generally what female actors use to provide some minimal privacy without disturbing the shot, leaving the writer to believe that Lively was only wearing the small fabric. So as to what generally is true, who can say, but it wasn't true in this situation, so it is misleading at best. Lively was aware of the birthing scene as she was heavily involved in writing it and gave creative input for the specific scene, even against the directive creative control. So she is using what she says is generally true, even though it's not true for her, so it doesn't matter. Moreover, film footage clearly demonstrates the set was not chaotic, as she alleged, and only essential individuals were present for the scene and doing their jobs. Importantly, Lively knowingly and falsely alleges the film's financier was present during these scenes and insinuates he was watching her nude, to which he had no desire to do. He was not even on set during filming that scene. Not only wasn't he present, he wasn't anywhere in the zip code. He arrived later, merely stopping by for a brief moment, a busy schedule, and was present during filming of a scene in which Lively's character spoke with an OBGYN doctor, a scene in which she was, in fact, fully clothed. So, not so much with that fact. Not present for the nude stuff, was present when you were fully clothed. So, not factually correct. As to point 3, no spontaneous improvisation of scenes involving physical touching, simulated sex, or nudity, which must be choreographed with the intimacy coordinator. Contrary to Lively's knowingly false claims, it was Lively who refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator to plan out their scenes, putting Baldoni in the awkward position of meeting alone with the intimacy coordinator and later relaying sex suggestions and plans to Lively into intimacy coordinator's absence. These meetings often took place at Lively's insistence in the couple's home and often while Lively's husband was present. Lively's method of work was unconventional and uncomfortable for Baldoni. To suggest Baldoni was the one who created the scenario is false. And then we see some emails to that effect. As a result, many sex scenes were not written in simultaneous collaboration and input from both Lively and the intimacy coordinator, as Baldoni had long intended. In the end, Lively rejected all of the intimacy coordinator's proposals to rewrite the scenes herself. So, again, if you're the one rewriting the scenes, if you're the one making the choices, it's a little bit hard to turn around and then complain about those choices, particularly when they offered you an intimacy coordinator. It's like, you got to take responsibility for your own choices and your own actions, man. Most egregiously, Lively later used these circumstances created entirely by her to accuse Baldoni of insisting Lively do uncomfortable or gratuitous scenes that were in fact proposed by the intimacy coordinator and by all accounts very typical asks of any actor performing simulated sex scenes. This is well documented in handwritten notes Baldoni took during the meeting with the intimacy coordinator and later read to Lively. Lively, in her most recent allegations, misrepresents these ideas personal, despite the fact that they were workshopping scenes for their characters. So she basically tries to say they were making sexual comments to me, the person, and they're like, no, we weren't. We were making sexual scenes to the character. It's professional. It's professional. We weren't talking about you. We're talking about the character because this is a movie and you have to act it out. So it's not personal, it's professional, and you seem to be unable to tell the difference. Lively's inability to discern the basic premise of the divide between collaborating on the film, that is to say the professional, and personal interactions with her co-star and director is woven throughout her claims of sexual harassment. Yeah, it's like they were talking to the character, but you try to pretend like they're talking to you. And it's like, no, not really. No, not so much. So they were making inappropriate sexual comments to me. It's like, no, we're filming a film that involves sex scenes and pregnancy and giving birth and lots of stuff. So we have to talk about that stuff because it's in the professional context. It's like, don't you understand the difference? Apparently not. In support of what Lively positioned as impetus for these demands, she alleges that Baldoni personally added graphic content, including a scene in which Lively was to orgasm on camera. This is false. During a creative meeting, which Lively requested to take place in her home, Baldoni read to her his notes from the intimacy coordinator, including a suggestion that Lively's character orgasmed during a scene similar to the book. Lively remarked, "Oh no, I'm too old for that," and Baldoni offered another suggestion instead, also from his notes from the meeting. "It wasn't my idea, it was the intimacy coordinator who you refused to meet with, and I'm simply relaying their suggestions or relaying their thoughts. You could have met with them yourself, but you didn't want to do that. So now I'm forced to be the go-between because you didn't want to participate. So, there's all that. I'm simply relaying the things that you could have talked about with them directly." Lively later complaint sheds light on what the point was alluding to this in demand, which was baffling at the time, and upon review of the filmed evidence is unequivocally based on the lie. Production was filming a romance montage of Lily and Ryle on their date. One of the producers played music to set the mood so the characters could slow dance. Lively, consistently unable to take direction, insisted she really liked the idea of characters constantly talking because, as she described, she and her husband liked to keep talking and talking and talking. Baldoni, her director, and the film's assistant director who was directing the scene disagreed. In an attempt to encourage her to take direction, Baldoni offered up him and his wife often just looked at each other silently, to which she responded, like sociopaths, "What?" and laughed. Baldoni laughed and shook it off. When Lively once again started talking about how she and her husband cannot not talk, Baldoni said, "I think it's cute," and complimented the couple, to which Lively responded, "I think it's more than cute." Ugh. Lively continued arguing and trying to direct him for the scene, which were supposed to be the character filming the scene. At some point, Heath and another producer, irritated, called Baldoni aside to express they can't capture the intended shot because Lively won't stop talking. You know, I mean, both are valid creative choices, right? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to play it. You know, there's a lot of different ways to play it, and both are valid visions. But the producer and the director have a vision. In their particular version of the vision, they don't think these characters should be talking. The opposite choice might be valid, but that's not the choice they want to make, right? There are a lot of different ways to play the scene, but that's not the way they want to play the scene, and they are, in fact, the director. So they get to make the choice. But she doesn't seem to understand that for some reason. All right, let's press on. Let's see what else was happening. He was instructed to somehow get her to stop. That seems to have been productive. While there was a brief verbal exchange, Baldoni, heeding the instructions of the assistant director and producer, continued to try to bring them back into character. As they were acting in this montage scene, Lively continued to break character and speak as herself rather than Lily, which was extremely confusing for Baldoni, who was trying to balance directing the scene with his artistic vision while also acting in character while trying to film and trying to get Lively to do the same. Lively apologized for the smell of her spray tan and body makeup. Baldoni responded it smelled good and continued acting, slow dancing as he believed the character would with his partner, which requires some amount of physical touching. Lively took them out of character again and joked that Baldoni should undergo a rhinoplasty. Baldoni laughed it off. Lively incorrectly alleges the scene was filmed without sound. Baldoni was wearing a microphone, and the entire exchange was captured on camera. The actual footage belies any suggestion the scene was filmed unprofessionally. Lively's allegation that the harassment took place is unequivocally false. Moreover, it was Lively who engaged in the unchoreographed kissing scene. One scene, again, captured on camera, again, like, don't you realize we have mics and cameras everywhere? So, you know, there's that. Exhibits Lively pulling Baldoni in to kiss her. It's clear Lively was initiating unchoreographed kissing. In one take, she pulled Baldoni in and kissed him once, in another twice. The number of kisses, each initiated by Lively, changed at her whim. Baldoni, as a professional actor who, among other roles, plays the lead's love interest in the television show Jane the Virgin for 5 years, is, like most actors, accustomed to rehearsing or filming scenes multiple times, often with variations, without needing permission while in character. While Lively now takes issue with any innocuous improvisation Baldoni, as Ra has allegedly initiated while in character, Baldoni treated the relationship on camera as professional, each playing the part, each doing their job. If no one was supposed to improvise, Baldoni would have no way of knowing that based on her actions. So basically, like, again, this is the energy you're giving out. And I'm simply reciprocating, right? It's like you can't really complain about this when you are the one that is initiating this. You were improving, and then maybe if I was improving, it was response to your improving, as opposed to a decision of my own. So it's like, what's up, guys? You know, what's up? I was simply trying to respond to the way you seem to want to play it. This seemed to be what you were comfortable with, and I was meeting your energy. And if no one's supposed to be improving, why are you improving? Right? So it's like, what do you want? What do you want? You know? Yeah. Lively demonstrated again and again this was normal and acceptable part of filming scenes. It's like, yeah, what do you want? Do you want to be really strict and by the book and everything has to be coordinated and no improvisation, or do you want something different? It seems like you want to be able to do whatever you want to do at any time you want and no one else can. Like, if you want it strict, it's strict. If you want it improv, it's improv based on your whim, which you weren't communicating. So it's like, I just want what I want when I want it, and you're supposed to be able to read my mind or something. Not really cool. As to point 4, No physical touching of Lively, including hugging, or comments on her physical appearance, except in connection with the character and or scene work, not as to Lively personally. To be clear, none of the named parties touched Lively while not in character, especially in a manner as suggested. When Baldoni and Wayfarer clearly agreed that co-workers should respect physical space, Lively's constant confusion of reference to her character as played by Lively, as opposed to Lively herself, became problematic and interfered with production. Again, you're the one that is making these boundaries difficult to maintain. When are you the character? When are you the person? Because when are you improving? When are you not? What exactly are the lines? And you're the one that are blurring lines. You seem to want it whenever you want it. You're the character when you want to be. You're the person when you want to be. You're the one that are blurring lines. If you want to maintain the separation, maintain the separation. If you want the blend, then have the blend. But it's like you can't really turn around and then blame people for matching what you sort of want. It's not really fair. For example, her allegation that Baldoni inappropriately called her sexy was in fact a reference to a scene where everyone was wearing onesies, but Lively was covering her onesie with a big coat. Baldoni, her director, asked that she should take the coat off so that her onesie would be visible in the scene. Baldoni said it would be hot, as it was 90 degrees in the small bar with no air conditioning. Lively mischaracterizes this in her complaint as Baldoni referring to her as hot. No, I was literally talking about the temperature in the room. Given that Lively herself had earlier expressed to them that she wanted her character's wardrobe to be sexier, Baldoni encouraged her to accept direction by saying, "It's sexy," meaning that without the big coat, the wardrobe would be sexier, as Lively said she wanted to be. Lively apparently took this comment, which was professional, as personal. She was unable to take direction, later alleging the behavior to be inappropriate, regarding her self-chosen wardrobe, like saying, "That's not what I'm going for." Baldoni, recognizing that she may have taken the direction personally and appeared offended, apologized more than once. His statements were immediately followed by his gesture that she had something in her teeth and requested for someone to get her a toothpick. This exchange, all of which is captured on camera, demonstrates how ludicrous and deliberately maliciously Lively's allegations are. Again, the whole thing is caught on film. It's a movie set. There are some cameras and microphones around. So the whole thing is caught on film. While on the other hand, Lively accused Baldoni of making comments about her appearance. On the other, she made fun of aspects of Baldoni's appearance, including the size of his nose, something Baldoni has publicly expressed insecurity about and discussed on an episode of his podcast, Man Enough, exploring the topic of body dysmorphia. Lively's comments about Baldoni's nose, advising him to get a nose job, was captured on camera. Baldoni, rather than adding to the list of grievances, brushed it off and moved on with the scene. Yeah, it's a little bit hard. You can't be talking about the character's nose because that's a little bit hard. It's not a piece of wardrobe, right? It's like, oh, that shirt is inappropriate. Put on a different shirt because that's not what the character would wear. Is a little bit different from change your nose, right? That's a little bit different. So not quite the same thing. Baldoni's sincere dedication to what he's repeatedly described as holding himself accountable as a man was used against him, just as Lively's attempting to do. See, this is the problem with woke. When you try to appease woke or apologize to woke, it's never enough. And they can and will use your appeasements and apologies against you. They will use it as confessions and admissions. This is the problem with woke. It's never enough, and anything you try to do will be used against you as an admission that you were guilty. Why would you be trying to accommodate us if you weren't guilty, right? Yeah. To then share this knowingly false characterization with the New York Times, months before filing any formal complaint, then waiting nearly 2 weeks to file the complaint with court, is inexcusable. Despite the flawed factual underlying premise, in face of the refusal to work for demand, we agreed. Again, we only did it because we were being extorted. As to point number 5, no discussion with personal experiences with sex or nudity, including as it relates to conduct with spouses or others. When Baldoni was faced with this demand, he was utterly confused. By the time Lively and Baldoni were developing their intimate scenes together, they had developed a friendly relationship and were communicating over text message. Lively felt comfortable expressing herself and appeared to do so freely. She took photos of Baldoni holding and comforting her newborn in their home. Baldoni filmed her uncontrollably laughing with him as they rehearsed late into the evening, often delirious with exhaustion. Nothing about their interaction suggested Lively was uncomfortable around Baldoni. Though confused by a demand and denied the opportunity to revise the return to production demands to make them factually accurate and less misleading, Wayfarer had no choice to sign and did so, but knowing no such instances had occurred. Later, Lively's references in her complaint that were shockingly mischaracterized and in no way inappropriate or unprofessional. For example, in response to a proposal from an intimacy coordinator that Baldoni's character Ryle not orgasm after he satisfied Lively responded, "I'd be mortified if that happened to me," personifying or personalizing the character's sexual acts, right? Yeah, you're talking about you, the person. So you're blending your character with the person. Baldoni, following Lively's lead in what he understood to be an attempt to connect with and develop the characters, remarked that those had been some of the most beautiful moments between himself and his wife. They then moved on. In another instance, as Lively and Baldoni were developing their scenes, Lively said, "I don't want to look at it like porn," and then offered up she'd never seen a porn in her life, which is very personal. Baldoni complimented her and said that's wonderful, because unfortunately he was first exposed to it when he was 10 years old and struggled with porn addiction for a period of his life. As he writes openly about in his books, Boys Will Be Human and Man Enough, addressing pornography as a societal problem. The conservatives in the room have some thoughts on that subject as well. Anyone who knows or has done research on Baldoni will have knowledge of this, and it can no way be characterized as inappropriate, especially after opening the door of discussion by disclosing something highly personal. Again, if you're going to make it personal, it's a little bit hard to say you object when they respond to your energy. It's a little bit hard to respond to it when that is what you are putting out. At every turn, Baldoni was entrapped. Moreover, Heath, who had nothing to do with this exchange and has never had a porn addiction or even mentioned porn in Lively's presence, was falsely and knowingly lumped into this accusation. Lively continued with an outrageous and knowingly false suggestion that she was shown pornography or naked images of Heath's wife on set. This allegation knowingly and maliciously misrepresents an instance where, in connection with the birthing scene, Heath, at director's request, attempted to show Lively a video that demonstrated the director's vision for the scene. The video, which was ultimately not shown to Lively, even though she stated she'd like to see it later as she was eating, is by all accounts beautiful. Since Lively wanted to see it later, when she saw the first image at the start of the video, which shows Heath's wife, himself, and their baby after the wife gave birth at home, to characterize this image, it characterizes such a beautiful moment with their newborn baby, shared with consent of the wife for the purpose of film, as a naked photo, as at worst porn, is deplorable. Yeah, not so much on any of those things. Nonetheless, Lively did not object and asked to see the video after she ate, after managing to convince the director to write and shoot the scene according to her specifications. The whole thing doesn't really stand up to scrutiny. Lively's concerns don't scare up to scrutiny. These brief exchanges were distorted beyond recognition in the 17-point list of the return for production demands that Lively sent on Wayfarer. Still, without conceding that anything remotely inappropriate had happened, Wayfarer agreed to this condition so they could resume production. As to point F, no one entered Lively's trailer while she was undressed. The suggestion that this ever happened is illogical and categorically false. No one would or did enter Lively's trailer without knocking first and asking for permission. More than once, Lively invited Baldoni, Heath, and other producers into her trailer so she can multitask, understandably balancing motherhood with work obligations. Regrettably, while accommodating Lively, Baldoni and Heath were led into situations that would later be characterized as harassment. Lively herself invited Baldoni into her trailer to work on lines while she pumped breast milk, which incidentally for me is a little weird. I mean, I don't know how these people roll, and I don't know how Hollywood rolls, but if I were an attorney working in a law firm and there was a woman lawyer who was working on something that I had connection to, right? We were working together on a case. And I was like, okay, I have some questions regarding this section that you wrote. And she's like, come on by my office. We can work on it together while I'm pumping or breastfeeding. I'd be like, no, that's okay. Let me know when you're done. Let me know when you're done. We can wait. It's not that urgent. Short of a court deadline being, like in the next 5 minutes. That's good. I'll figure it out. Thanks. But that's not necessarily how these people roll, which is incidentally their choice. Like if that's what they want to do, if they're comfortable doing that, then that's okay. But you then can't turn around and complain about it because you're uncomfortable. It's like, pick a side, man. Pick a side. Lively regularly breastfed in front of Baldoni while they had meetings. Again, we can have the meeting later. And that later's good. Let me know when you're done. Heath was invited into her trailer for the meeting at the request of while she was having makeup removed from her collarbone because she was not able to meet another time. That's fine. We can definitely have discussions while you're in the makeup chair. I think that's fine by me. That one I'll do. We can do makeup chair time. That's fine. Her nanny, makeup artist, and assistant were present, and Lively was not topless, as she claims elsewhere, but fully covered while either nursing or pumping breast milk. If you are nursing and doing breast milk while in the makeup chair, man, I guess kudos to you for your multitasking. But again, we can have the meeting later. Later will be fine. Let me know when you're done. In this instance, he was instructed to turn away while they spoke and respectfully did so, while they figured out a time to meet with other producers standing just outside the door. And as Heath pleaded with Lively to have the meeting the following morning to avoid her getting home late and losing shoot time the following day. While it's possible he inadvertently made eye contact at one point, he does not recall, which incidentally, like, again, you can't really invite someone into the situation and then be upset they might made eye contact with you. That's just not fair, man. That's just not fair. Thank you, Alan Parker, for the 20 gift memberships. As always, Alan, your continuing support of the channel is extensively appreciated. And thank you, DS, earlier for 5 gift memberships, both of which are extensively appreciated. I do appreciate your continuing support. Lively later mentioned that he did and made her uncomfortable, to which he responded, I'm sorry, I really didn't realize it. Lively responded, I know you're not trying to cop a look, and then moved on. Yeah, no, this is like, again, we can have the meeting at a later time. Mike Pence was chastised for once saying like he'd never meet alone with a woman. And it's like, yeah, I'm beginning to understand. Like, we'll never meet alone with a woman, or at least never have the door closed, right? It's like, we're never going to have the door closed if I'm meeting with a woman. So maybe I'll just keep the door open for everybody because it's just too much. Like, yeah, never close the door, man, Yeah, never close the door. I don't know, man. Or at least have someone else present because it's just like too much. Or at least videotape it, something, I don't know. Lively suggests that not one, but 2 professional and conscientious men barged into her trailer several times, or attempted to enter or pressure her to allow them to enter, offends not only their long-established integrity, but the sanctity of their vows to their wives and their dedication to their children and families. Lively is aware that both men are incredibly supportive and respectful of motherhood, to say the least. Heath White is a vocal advocate for postpartum mothers. Baldoni's wife co-founded a company that's designing a breastfeeding garment, a prototype that originated with his mother when he was an infant. Baldoni had gifted Lively one. While those facts would never excuse for bargaining in and announced, and personally, I kind of wish you hadn't mentioned it, to be honest, because it feels like, I have a black friend, so I kind of wish you hadn't mentioned it, but, that's just maybe a stylistic choice on my part. So if I were editing this, I would take that part out because it's like, I don't need that stuff, I just skip those 3 sentences, but that's me. Simply put, such allegations are categorically false claims that have been widely out of character if they were true. As to point 7, no filming nude or sex scenes except per a nudity rider, and no use of prior nude scenes without a nudity rider. Okay. Lively was provided a nudity rider, approved by the SAG intimacy coordinator, and given ample opportunity to provide notes before production commenced. Despite constant pursuit over several months, Lively's attorney never produced notes, and Lively not only didn't sign the rider during the first phase of production, but never even signed her employment agreement, which for me is just like the biggest deal breaker of deal breakers ever, especially as you're relating to a creative work. Right? The IP lawyer in me is going crazy. The IP lawyer in me is going crazy. And not only that, like, although I'm not that, like every other kind of lawyer in me is going crazy. It's like you're going to start work without a contract in place on a creative work in particular in a major production. Now, for those of you who are wondering, why are you going so crazy, Kurt? Why is this such a problem? All right, I'll tell you why it's such a problem. Okay, under operative law, copyright and patent law, both. Under both copyright and patent law, a contributor to the substance of the work is an owner in the work, an undivided owner of the work. Okay? So it doesn't matter how much you contribute. It's not a percentage thing under the operative law, okay? If you are a contributor to the work of any degree, you have an ownership, an undivided ownership in the whole of the work. Which means now suddenly you could start selling the work. You are now suddenly a distributor, and you can do that. You could yourself now sell the work, license the work, distribute the work, and basically you've just cut Sony out of the picture. Okay? Because you're an undivided owner in the whole. And your only obligation at that point is to provide accounting for whatever revenue you do get. So if you do get any revenue, you owe the other people an equal share because it's an undivided ownership. So a 50-50 ownership, or, depending on how many owners there are, but you understand my point, right? So if there are 10 owners, each would get a 10% cut, but they each own an undivided work. So you could have 10 owners, each of whom are entitled to 10% of the profits, but each own 100% of the work, which means they can each sell the work independent of the other, distribute the work independent of the other, and are only accountable for any profits that are received. Right? This is why, like, these contracts are kind of important to make sure that this stuff is taken care of. It's why it's really important. It says, oh, this is a work for hire, and all ownership, and you assign all ownership rights to so-and-so, and blah, blah, blah. This is why this language is really important. So the lawyer in me is going a little crazy. You are going to start production on a creative work without a signed contract in place? No. It's like, that's really easy for me as a lawyer. It's like, what is the answer? The answer is no. All right. It's not one of these, well, maybe this, maybe that. How about no? Does no work for you? How about no? Jeez, man. I mean, come on. Her main concern while Wayfair's lawyers were all but begging for signatures was to ensure her fee was deposited in escrow. In order to move forward, they even paid her fee even though she hadn't signed the agreement. Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. That's bad pool. That's bad pool. Don't do that. That was a mistake. Yeah, that's a mistake. Mistake. Don't do that. The Screen Actors Guild states that production must provide actors at least 48 hours notice before call time and negotiate a nudity rider. A nudity rider was approved by the SAG intimacy coordinator working on production and provided to Lively's counsel. Wayfair attorney communicated they'd like to have it signed and requested they send any notes they have. On May 12th, Lively's attorney finally responded that they're reviewing the rider and would come back with notes. The focus then shifted to ensure Lively's fee was deposited in escrow, and they became fixated on that despite repeated requests to sign the customary certificate of engagement. Yeah, I mean, I would literally be like, no, we're not giving you 1 cent until you sign the agreement. until we have a contract in place, I don't owe you money. Or until you begin work, I don't owe you money. Like, but for the contract or but for you starting to work, I don't owe you anything. There's no exchange, right? Contracts require exchange, right? Either a promise for a promise or work for work or promise for work or something. So unless there's a signed contract or unless work has actually begun, I don't owe you anything. There's no agreements. There's no agreement. There's no agreement by contract. There's no agreement in fact. Do you want money? Do you like money? Sign the contract. And then I'll pay you according to the terms of the contract, whatever that is. If it's money now, it's money now. If it's money later, it's money later. I mean, depends on the contract, right? I mean, it's not that hard. Damn. Ultimately, despite constant pursuit of Big Clean, Lear had no intention of signing the nudity rider. Well, at that point, fire her. Fire her. That's my legal advice. Fire her. There's no agreements. So it's hard to repudiate the non-agreements. Right? It's like, what are you going to do? Sue me for repudiation of the non-agreement? That'll be good. You right? To Lively's Council from Wayfarer's Council. Hello, I hope you enjoyed the 4th of July. Very confused at what's going on. Escrow was made in good faith. Don't do that. And we still don't have a signed agreement. Don't do that. That has been confirmed for almost 2 months. Also, we don't have the SAG paperwork, which has been outstanding for over a month. Lastly, please confirm 2 payments are being held in escrow. Mistake. Mistake. Don't do this. Don't do this. At the risk of pointing out the obvious, you don't need contracts when everyone is happy. Okay? You don't need contracts when everyone is happy. Contracts are very specifically when people become unhappy. That's why contracts are good. Contracts are good because they spell out exactly what everyone's obligations are, and they spell out exactly what everyone has to do and when. Do you need a contract when everyone's happy? No. When everyone's happy, you don't need a contract. Contracts are for when everyone is sad. Contracts are for when people are sad. So please have contracts no matter how well you're getting along. I'm so thrilled for you that you're getting along so well with whomever it is you're working with. I'm so happy for you both that things are working out so well for you both. Please get a contract. It won't last forever. If it does last forever, you don't need the contract anyway. So there's no downside, right? If everyone remains happy forever, then you never needed the contract. It just sits in a drawer and just sits there doing nothing. Everyone's just happy. And you never need the contract. But boy, oh boy, is it a nice thing to have. Please do the contract thing to save the tears. Please do the contract thing to save the tears. Months later, the demand for the nudity rider became part of the 17 demands and presented it as though it were Wayfarer and not Lively, which was the cause of the absence. No, we kind of wanted this in advance. The demand also states that any footage previously shot without the nudity rider may not be used, despite the fact that there had been no such film. In fact, only one scene involving simulated nudity had ever been filmed. It was a scene Lively knew in advance, given she wrote it herself, knew when it was filmed, and directed herself, never requesting a nudity rider. Mistake. This is, guys and gals, this is why you have to protect yourself, right? She directed it. She filmed it. It was her idea, everything, and all the rest of it. Can she really complain about it? Not really. But you know what would have really helped? You know what would have really helped? An agreement. Because otherwise, now the lawyers have to figure out what the agreement was in fact, right? Because can you have a contract without it being in writing? You bet your ass you can have a contract without it being in writing. But now we have to have an argument about what that was, right? Now we have to have an argument about what that was. So now we have to untangle everything, as opposed to if we just did it right the first place, then we would all have been happy. Why do you have to make your future lawyer sad? Just get it in writing, man. Just get it. As to point 8, Lively entitled to a personal representative. Wayfarer has no objection to allowing a personal representative. Great. Point 9, notice a COVID exposure. Oh my God. On April the 26th, weeks before principal photography commenced, Wayfarer sent the crew a COVID-19 protocol update, informing them of the return to work expires on May the 12th, and as such, there'd be no pre-employment testing and no mask requirements after May 12th of 2023. Yeah, I mean, as of May 2023, that seems like a pretty reasonable decision. Although the return to work requirement established COVID protocols expired prior to the start of principal photography and no testing or masking was requirement, Wayfarer agreed to inform Lively if production became aware they're exposed to COVID. Sure, why not? No retaliation for requests. While Wayfarer in no way conceded that Lively's demand amounted to a report of genuine sexual misconduct, Wayfarer has no interest in retaliating against Lively for making the demands. The only desire was to make a great movie. In the interest of maintaining a professional and productive atmosphere, they agreed to meet all our demands, including a broadly defined statement they would not retaliate in any manner. Wayfarer agreed, though it later became clear that Lively would consider any future effort to push back against her demands with respect to production as unacceptable retaliation. You know, I'll give Lively one thing for her. I'll give her one thing. She refused to return to work without a signed agreement. This part's on production's head. So shame on you. Shame on you. You began work without a signed agreement. And then there is now work happening, and now she has leverage. And now she gets to make demands from you because you didn't get a signed agreement prior to the work beginning. Shame on you, production. This is your problem. Lively gets to be demanding because you gave her leverage because you didn't insist on a signed agreement. And now she has you over a barrel. Get your contracts in advance. Contracts in advance make things happy. On information believed, this demand was included to safeguard Lively not from retaliation, but to secure her place as leader of the film, with the threat of claim of retaliation of Wayfarer or Baldoni pushed back. As to claim 11, mutually agreed Sony representative required on set. Wayfarer agreed to the concept of having a Sony representative on set whenever Lively was on set, though it gently pushed back against the idea that it will always be Angie Giannetti, who might occasionally have other pressing work duties. Overall, however, Wayfarer agreed. I'm not sure why Sony needs to have a representative on set. I mean, they're the distributor. And why would the actress care if the distributor has a representative on set? I don't know. But okay. For some reason, we thought that was important. I don't know why. As to point 12, additional Lively approved producer to be hired to supervise filming. Wayfarer point out the additional expense and contractual implications of hiring an additional producer will have detrimental effects on production. In the end, Wayfarer agreed, as would cost production more if Lively refused to return to work. Todd Black, suggested by Sony and approved by Lively, was ultimately brought on as an additional producer. This is what happens when you don't get your signed agreements in advance, guys. The crying starts. The crying starts. As to point 13, existing third-party producers empowered to actively supervise production. While disagreeing with the suggestion that any producer does not have an appropriate and customary authority to actively supervise the production in their capacity as producer, Wayfarer agreed to this term. Any third-party producer was already empowered to do so. I mean, producers do supervise production. That's kind of what they do. It's in the name. Point number 14, Wayfarer to use Lively approved body and stunt doubles for intimacy and sexual violence scenes. Again, I'm not 100% sure why you care about that issue, to be 100% honest. But okay, I guess. Despite not requesting this at the contractual negotiation phase, which again, get a signed contract in advance, Lively pre-approved stunt and body doubles were fully accepted to Wayfarer so long as they agreed, despite the fact this was an additional unexpensed planned expense. Ultimately, no body doubles were used in the film at Lively's request. Lively and Baldoni displayed a courteous and professional relationship through phase 2 of production. As to point number 15, no filming nude or sex scenes of any actor's portrayal of Lively except per a nudity rider, and new use of prior scenes without the nudity rider. This was an overstep, an attempt to expand Lively's right to her own nudity rider to assert control of the nudity rider for another actor, the actor who portrayed young Lily. Again, I'm not 100% sure why you are concerned about another actor's agreement. Right? I don't know why you care about why do you care? Also, why are you trying to impose on them to some degree? Stay in your lane. While seeing this as infringing on a young actor's independent right to their own nudity rider, yeah, no shit, Wayfarer once again was forced to agree, while informing Lively that young Lily had already filmed their intimate scenes pursuant to their own nudity rider, because, you know, they had their own representation and they signed their own agreement and etc. and so forth and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. Okay. As to point 16, all day players must be hired through talent agencies, not personal connections. Again, to some degree, why do you care? I mean, maybe there's a valid reason for you to care, but again, like, this all should be stuff that's determined in advance. Why do you care where other actors come from? You know, and why do you care that they come through a talent agency as opposed to why do you care? Why do you care? Stay in your lane. This point appeared to relate to Lively's misleading claim that Baldoni inappropriately cast a personal friend to play the obstetrician during Lily's birth scene. Baldoni cast an experienced actor who happened to be a friend, is no different than casting Lively's sister, who was cast because she's Lively's sister. The actor portraying an obstetrician is an award-winning Shakespearean actor with an MFA in acting from UCLA. In addition to appearing on numerous hit TV shows, he's toured nationally with Tony Award-winning acting company and attended Oxford acting program on school scholarship. And incidentally, if none of those things are true, I still don't know why it matters. I'm not 100% sure why it matters. But, you know, he's qualified for the job, which seems like a call for production, to be honest, as to whether or not he's qualified for the work. You know, so his accolades and performances speak for themselves. Lively's current complaint states she was alarmed when Baldoni introduced him as a friend and allowed him to play this intimate role in which the actor's face and hands were in close proximity to her nearly nude genitalia, categorizing the experience as invasive and humiliating. It's Lively's suggestion that a highly trained and experienced actor would have had the unseemly interest in being close proximity to her nearly nude genital, which is previously established was neither nude nor exposed, that is inappropriate, invasive, and humiliating to the actor. To reiterate, Lively knowingly made a false statement that only a small piece of fabric covered her genital during the birth scene. Thank you, DS, for 5 gift memberships. They're extensively appreciated. We do appreciate your continued support. Thank you very, very much. In fact, Lively was wearing briefs during the scene and was covered by a hospital gown and was wearing a pregnancy suit covering her midsection. This was not in any way a nude or partially nude scene. It doesn't sound like it. Once again, Wayfarer agreed despite the whole being wholly offended by the accusation. As to point 17, all hands meeting before production resumes. Wayfarer understood this request to be a sincere offer to meet and discuss the needs and preferences of Lively and other cast members to ensure comfort and security while filming a movie that dealt with difficult themes. In that spirit, Wayfarer readily agreed, believing that an opportunity to discuss concerns openly and to plan resuming production would be welcome. As will be established, Wayfarer's good faith belief could not have been farther from the truth behind this demand. Lively, with the support of her husband, used to justify this demand an ambush of Baldoni and Heath on the eve of the first day of filming in Phase 2 production. Importantly, Sony, who also had a representative, found the 17 requests confusing as well. So from Sony Business Affairs, Sony has the following commentary to offer. Hey, Jamie, Heath, took a look at this following our conversation. No change in my mind from what we discussed last evening. Items 1 through 10, 15, and 17 are basically yes, of course. Interestingly, I'm surprised that you don't already have a negotiated rider in place. I mean, yeah, Sony's like, what you doing, bro? Why do you not already have this settled? Sony's like, what the hell? Items 11 through 13. I want to hear more about what's underlying what she's hoped to accomplish, respectfully, of course, in the hope that some combination of the studio representative and the empowerment of Alex, whatever that means, might mitigate the need to exchange an additional A-level producer. Item 14 is another question mark since it sounds like she's approved the engaged stunt double. And as for item 16, I guess I'm confused about this one as well, and why engagement of day players has found its way onto the list. Perhaps some of the upcoming sensitive movie scenes involve day players extras, and this is an attempt to manage the perception of professionalism? Again, another clarification point. Sony is confused. Sony doesn't understand what's going on. Further, as discussed, the overall tone of the response has been in part to deny the underlying insinuation allegations, but in doing so, it doesn't inflame or escalate further since most of what's on Wayfarer is acknowledging addressing. The distributor is concerned about how this is going because the distributor has a monetary stake in all this. And the distributor's like, what's this bullshit? Since we have a monetary stake in all this. I share Sony's concerns. And of course, any unease on her part is paramount concern to production, and they're all committed to working with her to ensure that she's comfortable with the plan execution, right? Yeah. Not everything necessarily was done with the level of professionalism you'd hope for a fairly major motion picture. I mean, you've got some pretty notable names in this thing, right? You got Sony, Wayfarer, Lively. You got some these are big. What I'm trying to say is that this is not more on the amateur side, right? This is just not some fly by night companies, in the grand scheme of things. They're just trying to put things together on a shoestring and a dream, which can absolutely happen in Hollywood or even Hollywood adjacent or even Hollywood non-adjacent for that matter. It's not like all films have to be filmed in Hollywood. So, this isn't some people who are just trying to pick things up by their bootstraps and trying to make a movie happen with a wish and a dream. And it's not necessarily being handled in the way that's consummate with the level of professionalism you'd hope from these relatively repeat industry players. Yeah, it's not necessarily going great. I'm going to send a copy to folks internally and ask our production attorney offer any assistance. Yep. Best, Sony. Sony's like, do you guys need help? Do you guys need help? Sounds like you might need help. Would you like to borrow one of our attorneys? Do you guys need help? Holy shit. Oh, man. Before returning to production, Lively had even more script notes and changes beyond what was already performed during phase one. In face of these terrifying and false accusations couched as demands, as well as Lively threats she'd not return to production, you really need a contract to deal with this kind of shit, holy shit, Baldoni realized he needed to cede control of the script to Lively as she wished. His film would be taken from him by threats and coercion. There was nothing to be done about it. In an email to his team containing the notes of the revised script, he expressed sadness and frustration over Lively's takeover of the film he spent years developing, writing, and funding. Having no energy left to fight, he sadly declared that he was waving the white flag and submitting and would give Lively 98% of what she wants, which apparently was not good enough for Lively. Yep. Everything has gone to tears. Everything has gone to tears. Things are sad. We don't have a contract in place, so we don't know how to deal with the sadness. It's going great. If we had a contract in place, presumably we would know how to deal with the sadness, but we don't know how to deal with the sadness because we don't have a contract. Baldoni asked his producing partners to guide him, as he's rightfully afraid that the risk of something innocuous or not to lively standards would be likely used against him, as it already has, continuing that creativity is impossible in an environment shrouded by fear. By now, we all know what she's capable of. Wow. Baldoni's fear of Lively's retaliation was palpable, but he's determined to get the film to the finish line for everyone involved. Justin Baldoni writes the following to members of the production team. Hey, team. Attached is a revised script with below notes and caveats in bold. This is not final, as there are things we're going to discuss and implement. Also, I've added some person in as our assistant director to have eyes on this so he can digest this as the same as all of you. I spent the better part of the last few days trying to figure this out. Everyone knows how I feel about this and how angry I am that Blake has taken over our film and somehow rewritten a movie that we spent years developing, writing, and funding. So yes, I'm furious and sad. See, the contract would have helped a lot with the sadness. But we don't have a written contract, and now everyone is sad. But I'll continue to get back up with the goal of letting us film it finish the line. I've come to terms with the fact that there's only one A, one A out. I'm waving the white flag and submitting. I'm going to give her 98% of what she wants. I'm sure none of us have the energy to fight anymore. The team who's been working their ass off needs a shooting script on January 2nd. So that's where things are. There are minor things I did to each scene, some of which I made notes on, and some of which I didn't. Most of what I touched is below. The big issues are going to be intimacy, how and where we're shooting for those scenes, and how the script is going to be presented to her and with what notes. To that end, we all need to get on the phones and talk this through at the risk of doing something innocuous or not meeting her standards could and would be very likely used against me, as it already has. And creativity is impossible in environments shrouded by fear. By now, we all know what she's capable of. The hostage situation is very, very real. A producer thanked Baldoni for his thoughtful breakdown, especially considering the circumstances. As producers continued to request the final shooting script, as there's just 4 days before commencement of filming, Baldoni worked hard with very limited time to rework the script and direction to meet Lively's demand, recognizing that they would be in negotiation for what the final script looks like. Lively's demands continued to cause additional work and stress for the production team. From Baldoni to a member of the production team. Hey, buddy, unfortunately, it looks like we're not going to be able to send anything until Thursday. I'm not quite sure of how to handle this, but I'm doing these small rewrites and I'm going to be sending it back to the producers and all of you. And then they're going to send it to Blake and there'll be a negotiation. Things have gone to hell. Meanwhile, on the day before commencement of the second day of filming, Lively casually reached out to Baldoni together with Heath and the film producers to meet in her home. Lively's return to production demands required a meeting before filming resumed. On the day before filming, Baldoni, Heath, a Sony representative, and the film's first assistant director, and 2 producers arrived with production binders in tow, excited to discuss details of resuming production. But Lively and her husband had very different meeting in mind. Dun, dun, dun. Lively brought Reynolds as her chosen representative. Notably, she did not request any attendees from her union, the Screen Actors Guild. Together, Reynolds and Lively blindsided the rest of her group with a list of grievances, read aloud by Lively, that they were troubled as they were fictional. Reynolds then launched into an aggressive tirade, berating Baldoni in what Baldoni later described as a traumatic encounter. As Baldoni later said, he had never been spoken to that like in his life. You lost your big boy pants. You lost your big boy pants. Someone else now has the pants, and they're showing you what happens when that happens. Reynolds demanded that Baldoni apologize to Lively for actions that either never happened or been grossly mischaracterized. Baldoni resisted apologizing for things he's not done, further enraging Reynolds. Everyone, including the producer Lively had asked the production to engage, and Sony representative left the meeting in shock. The producer said in his 40-year career, he had never seen anyone spoken to like that in a meeting. The Sony representative later said they often thought of the meeting and their one regret was not intervening to stop Reynolds' tirade against Baldoni. Baldoni and Heath left the meeting deeply unsettled by Lively and Reynolds' behavior and the power dynamics at play. It was clear to them that this was the latest escalation in Lively's concerted campaign of extortion to extract concessions and creative control over the film, a campaign that now apparently joined Reynolds. Nonetheless, faced with persevering in the face of extortionist threats versus shutting down a film halfway throughout production with all the attendant and financial implications, Wayfair had virtually no choice but to resume production. Yeah, they've got you over a barrel at this point. And finish the film despite newfound creative certainty that Lively was intentionally manipulating, distorting, and inventing facts to use as a cudgel against Wayfair. The stakes could have hardly been higher for Wayfair. Financiers had invested substantial resources, hundreds of cast and crew members have endured months without work due to strikes, and years of development have gone into the filming. Moreover, Baldoni and Heath shared a conviction that It Ends With Us could still provide a powerful opportunity to center the voices of abuse survivors. Incidentally, we might get a movie about the movie at this point, right? As long as we're filming movies about abuse survivors, maybe we can film a movie about Baldoni, right? It'll be good. We can do Filmception. Maybe that's where this is all going. I wonder who gets to option the story. Lol. It is crucial to note that the list of grievances read on January 4th of 2024 in Bush were new, separate and apart from the 17 pointed demands, and were never presented to any of the parties present. Though Lively's complaint misleadingly suggests the parties agreed to a list of 30 items, many of the listed items were new, entirely based on lies, and neither read nor provided to any of the parties, let alone agreed upon. The only document presented was the 17-point return of demands presented on November 9th and signed 2 weeks after the meeting. Lively's CRD complaint, on which information believed she disseminated to the New York Times well in advance of legal filing, is riddled with blatant misrepresentations, as is her complaint here. Nice. As Lively admit, filming resumed the following day and then concluded without any further grievance or reference to previously disputes by Lively. The parties agreed to implement and following for production return to production to ensure the film could be completed, marketed, and released safely and successfully, and it was. Production, the film resumed January 5th and concluded February 9th. The film has been a resounding success. Lol. Now that Lively has unleashed the complaints against Baldoni and Wayfair, they felt powerless to oppose the couple. Just as Lively had warned on April 2023, 9 months before, Reynolds would ensure that Lively's demands were met at every turn. From then on, Lively would get her way or else. Unmistakably, Lively would use her carefully constructed paper trail to destroy Wayfair, Heath, Baldoni, and the film. Nice. Nice. All right, let's I think we've got energy for one more point. We're on page 73, by the way, of this complaint. We're on page 73 of 224. There should be a limit on the length of complaints. There is not. Plus, of course, we still have 150 pages or something of appendices to go through at some point. We'll never make it all the way through this complaint. This complaint's going to take us weeks. 224 pages, plus 150 pages of appendix. It's a long complaint. There should be a law against this. 30 pages or less. I don't know what the law needs to be, but we need a law. I don't know. Anyways, if you're enjoying this content, by the way, could I please get you to hit the like button? And I do appreciate the people who have been so kind as to throw some support my way. Could I ask you to throw $1 in the tin, a super chat, or maybe become a member for 99 cents, or maybe more? I need you to feed my watch habit, as well as allowing me to eat food, as well as help support me in my need for Mongiorno, which is incredibly expensive. Please help an uncivil today. Let's read point F. Lively completes her usurpation of the film. Nice word choice, by the way, usurpation. I really like the way this attorney writes. He has a very nice writing style. He's very good at telling the story, and he's also very good at using imageristic language in a way that's not overpowering, because that can be challenging. Like, he's very good at, it's not overly dry, which I really like, because a lot of like really white shoe law firms write in this really, really safe way that kind of like, it's like, eh. And this is not that. This is written with a little bit more flair. Probably not as much flair as I'd bring into it. I'd probably go a little bit further, but that's more my style. But this does appeal more to my style. So this is like white shoe flair. This is like top law firm flair. And this lawyer does a very good job of writing it out and writing the script, and also bringing in the storytelling elements. He's very good at telling a story, and he's very good also at the use of imageristic language without it being overpowering. So it's very well balanced. Ellen Ellers gives 50 gift memberships. Wow, that's incredibly generous, Ellen. Thank you very much for 50 gift memberships. Wow, that's nice. Thank you, Ellen. I feel validated today. I feel validated today. This is a happy uncivil. All right, let's read point F of this, since I still have some energy to go, and let's see how long it takes me to get through point F, and we'll see how we feel by the time we get to point G. Lord have mercy. Okay, the Directors Guild of America requires a 10-week editing period for directors to privately edit and assemble their director's cut. Okay, this period is sacrosanct, as it gives directors uninterrupted time to creatively shape their final product, a time to experiment, take risks, and refine until the film fully reflects the artistic vision. For Baldoni, this period is peak experience of the filmmaking process, a time to immerse himself in creative craft, free from external influence, but Lively denied Baldoni this experience on a powerful and deeply felt film. Burn. Lively requested through producer Todd Black to join Baldoni in the editing bay. Again, she's not an editor. She's not an editor. She's not a producer. She's not a director. She's not a writer. Yet she seems to do all these things. She's also not a wardrobe designer. But she seems to undertake all these roles. She's like, I'm an actress and all these other things. And it's like, no, you're really not. Why do you keep shoehorning yourself into this, right? All right. But in the aftermath of a serious and false accusation that she had leveled against Baldoni, Heath, Wayfair, and production, and with pressure from Sony, they reluctantly agreed to grant her access to the editing bay for 2 days. Notably, despite her allegations that Baldoni made her uncomfortable, Lively insisted on working closely with him. And here's a message from Justin to Blake. Good morning, Blake. So Blake and I had a great chat the other day, and let me know you'd like to come in the editing bay before you leave your film, and I think that's a great idea. I bet you do. I agree the work really well together, and with all you put into the film, I completely understand you wanting to give notes and have input before you leave for the other movie. That's all the director wants, right? That's all the director wants in his day, is another person to give notes. Right? That's all every director really, really wants. Boy, oh boy, am I so excited. There's yet another person to give me notes. Yeah. Yeah. With that, I started my cut on Thursday, so tomorrow will be date 3. The movie's currently all over the place. I need a few weeks to get in some sort of shape to even present it to you. What I'd love to do is bring you in on the 18th and have us work together until you leave. Did I hear the first week of April? And then once you're in Italy, as things progress, you can jump on any free days or even days you have long waits between scenes. I'm also happy to send you progress scenes with any big changes that are being made, as we all know things change from time to time. Incidentally, by the way, I'm not 100% sure why you're even trying to accommodate her at this point, because thank God she's filmed all the acting, so I'm not sure why you're trying to accommodate her, but perhaps you just feel so browbeaten at this point. I don't even know. Let's see. For me, the editing process is a time to try things and throw it against the wall to see what sticks. It's my favorite part of the process. So once you take off, we can keep you in the loop and send you stuff to the extent you want as we get closer to filming the picture. Cody Sams for $2 says, Oz gets axed because no one cares about celebrity drama. No, the film was released. Was it not? The film was released. It didn't get axed. The film got released. So the whole thing is just stupid. The whole thing is just dumb. From Blake. Hey, thank you for the note. I appreciate it. Oh, I mean the case? Oh. No, I think there's a pretty reasonable case here. And everyone is suing everyone at this point. Lively's suing Baldoni. Baldoni's suing Lively. Everyone, they're suing the New York Times. I think I give odds-on favorite right now for Baldoni. It's not ever an easy case, but I have to give odds-on favorite for Baldoni. Not for the least of reasons that Baldoni has dumped so much onto the docket between the complaint and the appendices there too, to show a lot of their hand, which allows me to give a more confident assessment. And, it's really difficult to prove defamation because, of all the things that you're trying to prove. You basically have to prove the conspiracy between New York Times and stuff. You have to show that they were doing things together, which is a little bit thinner. But, on balance, I think that there's a reasonable chance that this lawsuit is allowed to proceed to discovery. And then, of course, things depend on discovery. But right now, I give Baldoni odds-on favorite. I give it like 70% chance to proceed. It's an odds-on favorite. The real question you should be asking are, what are the odds that we get to see this be filmed, or the odds that we get to see this? And the odds right now are not very good because we're suing in federal court, which doesn't allow broadcasting. We're suing in New York, which doesn't allow for broadcasting. So the odds of us being able to see this in a Johnny Depp trial-like experience are not very good. So I doubt it's coming to a YouTube stream near us, which is very, very sad. Yeah. Because right now, I don't think it's even pending in any jurisdiction, which allows for trials to be filmed. So it's very disappointing for us all. Maybe when it goes to court, I'll try to go to it in person, but that's always incredibly expensive, right? For me to actually go to this thing in person, assuming it doesn't really matter where it is, unless it's in Houston, which it won't be. But, unless it's in Houston, for me to go to the thing requires me to fly there and get a hotel room. And, there's a lot of expense. For me to go to this trial would probably cost me a couple $1,000s, like minimum. By the time you do the hotel rooms, especially, would get to you, right? Even if you could find a hotel room for like $150 a night, which you can't, that's going to add up pretty fast, right? So it's like, does anyone happen to have like a spare $4,000? It's like, if you do, let me know. Maybe we can go do this thing in person. If it ever gets that far, which is a long time in the future. So I wouldn't expect it anytime in the near future. Do it. We'll fund you. Outstanding. Is TS involved in this? Taylor Swift? Indirectly. And Taylor Swift has apparently expressed her displeasure at being involved. And I don't blame her. Why'd you drag me into this bullshit? Yeah, so Taylor Swift is a little bit tangentially involved. Editor 1. Hey, just checking in. Hope you're hanging in there. We're going to get through this, damn it. Justin Baldoni. Thanks for checking in. I've sat with it, and I think the best path forward spiritually, and what's best for the movie, is that I suck it up and let her in. I've sent the message requesting we start on the 18th, and we just let her in until she leaves, and then cuts and updates through this. I'll let you guys know what she says. Thanks for being awesome, dream team. Editor says, we got you. Editor says, I think it sounds like a very good plan. Baldoni says, side note, I offered for her to join the 18th, and she replied she'd like to join now because she'd be invaluable to me. I'm going to stick the date and see what comes next. The editor says, oi, stick to it. Editor says, when you get a moment, would you complete the ADR line from the karaoke scene? Lol. There's something somehow like refreshing about this behind the scenes look, right? Because Hollywood has this very glitz and glamour thing to it, right? And there's something very refreshing to it somehow, that behind the scenes, like these emails, that these are just people. It's a reminder that these are in fact just people. And they go through a lot of bullshit, and their workplace has some bullshit, like your workplace probably might have some bullshit in it. So it's a nice reminder. It's a nice reminder that not all that glitters is necessarily gold. Yeah. Their struggles are different from our struggles, but in the end of the day, there can be some petty bullshit. And I appreciate that. The editor said, okay, let me put together some form of reel 5. The last scene was only half finished, so I'll swap in the last version temporarily. And hopefully so-and-so is working on the sound pass this morning. Justin Baldoni said, also, I think a valuable thing to do next week is going to be get both your systems set up in a way that you'll be able to find all the takes very quickly based on whatever you're comfortable with, because I know for a fact it's going to be something that Blake is going to end up doing. And I know the last time we spent searching for the takes, it's better going to be for overall process. So it's like, let's get set up for her demands in advance. I mean, that is some whatever. Justin Baldoni says, let me know if you guys need anything. I'll be in LA and at my office until the preview. For Blake, should I say 9:30 to 3 each day? That gives you guys 3 hours for extra notes and other things. Or 10 to 3. 10, that gives us wiggle room for any powwows before meeting her. They're anticipating problems, people. They're anticipating problems. Thank you for the 300 of you who are currently here, by the way. Thank you for spending some time with me. I do appreciate it. It's very nice of you. Yeah. This is some bullshit. Later in March 2024, Lively continued pushing for demands, as was been a 2-day collaboration extended in 10. And Lively sought to work alone in the editing bay without Baldoni, so they'd have full control. Though Baldoni incorporated 7 pages of her notes into the edit at the start, and constantly kept her involved in every subsequent edit, despite having no obligation to do so, Lively's not satisfied with mere collaboration. She wanted to be the director and set her own creative version for the film. Nice. Editor said, thank you for getting those organized like that. Baldoni said, we should all hop on whenever we can tomorrow before she joins. Whatever works for you guys. I will let her know we tested. She's asked for all the cards and data as well. Editor says, oh, wow. I was wondering if you were going to. I think that was the right call. The Best Defense is a great movie. I know we talked about 11 a.m. start for tomorrow with Blake, which I think would be a very good idea. I think it's important we meet with so-and-so beforehand in the morning so we can launch her working on music while we're working with Blake. Also, she's fresh eyes, so we can talk to her about the things that came up before screening. Yeah. Just more of this stuff. As the editor notes, Baldoni bent over backwards for Lively for months on end. Baldoni says, and she's getting to edit, which is what she wants. Let's remember that. The editor says, Justin has bent over backwards for her for months on end. The editing team is not happy, man. The editing team is not happy about being usurped. As April 2024 approached, Lively gained approval rights over individual scenes. And editor said, I'll drink to that. Of course, I was planning on drinking anyway. I bet. Baldoni said, that's going to end up being Blake's call, honestly. If you get to keep her in, and that's the movie when we get back on, she has approval over that scene. Even for young Lily? When she claimed she was unsafe, she redid the nudie rider to get approval of young Lily too. Yikes. And the editor says, shaking my head. Because she wasn't part of writing that sex scene, and she didn't want a character depicting her to have sex in high school. Honestly, it's all about her control. So she should get wherever she will want to be next week. All good. Lol. You know, I'm not 100% sure why Baldoni is ceding to her demands at this point, because it's like why he's not shutting her out. But maybe he was trying to avoid problems down the road, and it didn't work. It didn't work, right? You were unable to satiate her. You're trying to satiate her and it didn't work. And now look at where you are, ma'am. Now look at where you are. Now you're involved in this big, vast bullshit lawsuit, ma'am. You know? Mistakes were made, man. Mistakes were made. Finally, in April and May of 2024, Lively's extortionate threats coerced Sony to allow her to create her own cut of the film, a right that's exclusively reserved to the directors. You think? At Wayfair and Sony's expense, and despite Baldoni and Wayfair's rightful protests. Sony's reasons for acquiescing to these beyond unreasonable demands was clear. Sony told Wayfair in no uncertain terms that Lively refused to promote the film unless her demands were met, in which case I'd say, bye, bitch, but that's me. Right? Oh, she refuses to engage in promoting the film. It's like, we don't need you. Like, but it's like, I guess Sony wants to play along for some reason. Oh, well, whatever. Sony told Wayfair in no uncertain terms that Lively refused to promote the film unless her demands were met. Wayfair, feeling increasingly cornered and agreeing to the demands, attempted to at least require that Lively finally sign her engagement contracts if her demands were to be met. She still hasn't signed her contract? She still hasn't signed the contract? Production is over and we're in editing and she still hasn't signed the contract? I can't even. I can't even. The lawyer in me at this point is doing this. I'm out. Good luck. You obviously don't need me. Hope it works out for you. Even this basic ask was refused, and Sony urged Wayfair to give in. Sony apparently said, Jamie, I have so-and-so on here too. So-and-so has gotten Blake to approve the trailer we want. With our narration, the trailer kicked the bruise, and Blake is calling to approve a song. She of course just reached out saying she's asking for time with the editor. We know it was conditional on her signing the contract, but we'll ask for you to reconsider so we can release the trailer and Blake does not change her mind. Oh my God. I'm available to talk on the phone. Call me if you're free. The Sony said, you guys don't want to play ball. You're going to delay and greatly hurt the movie. Good luck. That's only if you want to make this date. We're going to need to push. First director cut, and then we can have multiple previews down the road. You guys are in such a negative position at this point. It's like she can make you absolutely her bitch. You guys are in such a negative position. You guys should have never began work without a signed contract. That was a mistake. That was a mistake. Don't begin work without a signed contract. Jesus Christ. Baldoni and the film's original directors were not even allowed to see Lively's cut, even just to see how much of the work has been produced. Oh my God. Still believing this to be a sus, sane, and just world, despite Lively's continued extortion, an actress would never be allowed to usurp the legal right as a director to create and release the cut. Well, you know what? At this point, it's like the legal right is vague. That's the thing. Like, the legal right is vague because there's no agreements. There's no express agreement, I should say. There's no explicit agreement. It's like, can you have a contract without it being in writing? Absolutely, you can have a contract without it being in writing. But now we have to figure out what the contract is. You know, we're not trying to buy a piece of fruit at a fruit stand. You know, having a written contract for buying a piece of fruit at a fruit stand would be a little much. But we are trying to produce a major motion picture. I don't think asking for signed contracts is too much, ma'am. Where were we in this bullshit? First, he assumed Lively's edit would be simply supplemental to his work. Thus, Baldoni continued refining his director cut. But as Lively threatened to refuse to promote the film or even approve relating marketing materials, a doomsday scenario for a motion picture, Wayfair and Baldoni were extorting and acquiescing to more and more demands. Yeah, because she has leverage, because you don't have an agreement. This included co-funding a friends and family screening of the film, which they had not even approved or seen entirely at Lively's instance. You are now having a film being released that you, the producers, haven't seen. That's just great. That's just great. Ultimately, Lively replaced the film editors with her own choices, an editor often used by Reynolds, and film editors had to be left go. She replaced the film's award-winning composer with composers from Reynolds' project, even though the film's composer had already finished the score, with an orchestra. Sony supported Lively's demand and even enforced her dictate the film's director and editor not be permitted to even view her cut. Look what you did to poor Sony. Look what you did to poor Sony by not having an agreement. I'm amazed Sony isn't suing you for this bullshit, to be honest. Because you put Sony in such a negative position by this bullshit. I'm surprised Sony isn't suing Wayfarer. You know, for this bullshit. Look at what negative position you've put us in because of this bullshit. And look what we're forced to do because of you. Wayfair and Sony found themselves unprecedented, uncomfortable predicament of having two competing versions of the film, one made by the director and one made by a person who is not the director. But in threat of Lively's threat to withhold promotion of the film, as well as her thinly veiled threat to end Baldoni's career with a slew of false accusations, which sounds suspiciously like extortion, the studio reluctantly agreed to do an official audience test of both versions. That decision was made on the understanding that Lively had agreed with Sony that if Baldoni's cut tested higher, she'd drop the matter. Yeah, that sounds like that's good. That's a wink and a nod agreement in this situation. That sounds good. Tellingly, in a side-by-side comparison of audience tests, Baldoni's cut scored significantly higher with the demographics. In our key demo, over 20% higher in excellent rating and 15% higher in the definite recommended. That sounds like a pretty significant improvement. The only group she went up with in excellent category was men, and they're absolutely not our audience. Which, you know, fair enough. I mean, you obviously get to target what kind of audience you're looking for. It's your movie. If you want this to be an audience, if you want women to see this movie, then great. If you want men to see this movie, great. You're allowed to make the decision who it's for. And then, of course, the audience is allowed to make that decision themselves, too. Surprisingly enough, everyone's free. But if you want this to be a movie that speaks to women, have it be a movie that speaks to women. If you want to be neutral, be neutral. If you want to be a movie that speaks to men, speak to men. All these are valid choices. They're all valid choices. But, like, you know, you're allowed to make your choice, and the production company isn't being allowed to make this choice. You know? I mean, you know. Not surprisingly, Lively reneged on her promise and insisted that her version be released to the public instead of Baldoni's cut as director, even claiming the book's author would refuse to promote the film as well as Lively's version was not chosen. Sony called to tell Wayfair that neither Lively nor any of the cast would promote the film unless Lively's cut was used. Baldoni was choosing to force between killing the film and his own career by insisting on his own creative vision and rights, or putting out a version that Baldoni knew could still be inappropriate to domestic violence, even if it differed greatly from what could have been. Baldoni reluctantly chose the latter and stood down, allowing Lively's version of the film to be produced. Baldoni lacks balls. Baldoni is allowing himself to be trampled all over, and it shows. Baldoni does not have balls. Baldoni was essentially forced to fire himself as the director and allow Lively to finish the film, knowing it was the only choice that could be made to serve the greater good. 2 days later, Baldoni was hospitalized with a serious spine infection. Eventually, with the key demographic being the focus, Sony and Screen Engine, the audience testing company, convinced Lively to put back as much of Baldoni's edit as they possibly could. None of this was officially communicated to Baldoni, but whispers reached him that parts of his cut made it back into the final release. Baldoni made sure to thank and apologize to his editors, who Lively had caused to let go. Baldoni sang, "I'm sorry. I love and adore you both and will fight for you in your recognition and sing your praises to the end. This will all work out." Yeah, right. "It's painful, but it will all be okay. We caress knowing we've created a beautiful work of art." The editor sang, "Holy cow, feel better. We didn't want to bug you during all this, but our secret source let us know that a new version they're previewing tomorrow is a bunch of our work put back in. We just have to keep quiet because we want to keep our original channel open. Feel better, get well soon. We love you and all this craziness." This is some bullshit. Lively sounds like the worst person ever. Lively just sounds like a horrible, horrible person. She sounds like she maximum Karen'd this, sees control of people's work, and is just basically the biggest bitch ever. That's what I'm getting from this. You know, that's what I'm getting from this. And they have the receipts to tell their story. And they're finally telling their story. Finally. Lol. Finally, they have stories. So finally, they have a story they're willing to tell. Because she struck first, right? They were willing to let it go, but finally they found the breaking point. Finally, Blake Lively found the breaking point. Right? She finally found the breaking point. She effed around and finally found out. Long overdue, but much needed. Much needed. All right. Editor says, "Damn, take care of yourself. If Blake is so determined to handle the marketing on the movie, just let her." Lively shamelessly removed Baldoni, the film's co-star, and executive producer, championed the film for 5 years, and whose company had co-funded the entire project. Out of all the posters, trailers, and other production materials, she continuously refused to film the film otherwise. Here's an email from Wayfair, from James Heath, to a Sony executive. Or apologize, the other way around, from the Sony executive to James Heath. So here's what Sony had to say. "Hey, Jamie, we had a very successful weekend at our book bonanza, and the fans loved the book art display at the event. We'd love to release this art as our second teaser poster for domestic distribution. Since it's already been released international in many markets, it only makes sense to use it domestically as well. We'd love to start printing tomorrow to get in theaters. However, this version does not have Justin Baldoni's a film by credit, so we need to waive that. Please let me know if that's approved." Lol, he doesn't even get credit on his own posters, man. Holy shit. Holy shit, man. This is so fucked up. It's all finds it fucked up. Over Sonny's objection, Lively insisted on screaming her cut at Book Bonanza, Colleen Hoover's annual convention hosting authors and fans from around the world, an event that Baldoni had long been excited to attend. But Sony made it known to Wayfair that per Lively, Baldoni could not attend, notwithstanding the obvious promotional and PR risks. Baldoni can't even attend the screening of the movie. Wow. Lively appeared on a panel alongside Hoover and other cast members, icing out Baldoni from this critical event of his own film. He was not even allowed to review the final cut before it was shown to the world. Holy shit, man. Justin Baldoni wrote, "She's kicked me out officially from the film now. She's finishing it all. I can't even be involved. Music, sound, visual effects, everything. If I make it through somehow, I'll just need to feel it all. Damn it." Justin Baldoni writing, was supposed to be ours and then I was uninvited. Whole thing is pretty cruel and intense. Then he wrote, "I haven't seen it and I can't yet." Wow. Justin Baldoni, I feel really sorry for you. I feel really, really sorry for you. But at least one channel is telling your story. At least one channel is telling your full story. So guys, I really do need your help. I would really like you to like this video. I really would appreciate you hitting like. There are a lot of people talking about this story, but I don't know of anyone else who is breaking this completely down. I don't know of anyone else who's going through the documents completely and making sure to like go through this whole thing so someone can tell this guy's story. And so I'm happy to do it, but I would appreciate if you'd hit the like button because other people need to see this. Other people need to see what's going on and evaluate this story because this is some bullshit and Baldoni deserves to have his story told. And Lively's response should be pretty epic if it ever happens. It should be pretty amazing, I would imagine. So please make sure to hit the like hit the like. And if you wouldn't mind, for those of you who don't have a green name or the little cool icon by your name, you know, if you could hit that join button for 99 cents, it's only 99 cents a month to join. I literally can't make it any cheaper. You know, I literally can't make it any cheaper. For only 99 cents, you can be a member and support the channel. And then I get to eat. I like eating. And please support me, and I appreciate it. Or more to the point, you also help to get me not to eat because you also help to get to supply me with the Monjourna so I don't eat and lose weight. So you also help to make me not eat. And either way, I appreciate your support. You're with Lively. You are in the wrong place, my friend. Jesus Christ. Thank you, Erica V23 for helping support the channel. Thank you, Sayeth, for the 20 gift memberships. That's very nice of you too. By 2024, Baldoni was completely locked to the film's final cut. By virtue of the role on Wayfarer, he was permitted to give notes as a studio. This only add insult to injury because he shouldn't have been giving notes. He should have been editing the film, right? He's been reduced to a mere contributor rather than the guy. He's been reduced from being the guy to, "Please, sir, would you mind if I, do this? Would it be okay with you?" Yeah, 75 gift memberships today. Yeah, we had a lot of gift memberships today. We do appreciate it. Thank you very much, at least. A lot of gift memberships today, and we do appreciate everyone who's helping to support the channel. It's been very, very nice. You guys are awesome. Kick ass. I love you guys. Despite his personal feelings, he redirected his thoughts to focus on one-on-one and positive. The film's year in the making was very close to being seen in the world, even if it was no longer his film. He prayed for the possibility the film could still make an impact when he first reached out to Colleen. And then said, who is this from? An editor, presumably? "Justin, just wanted to check in. Are you back to 100%? And any updates on our little movie? Just hoping everything is okay with everything. Sorry, I missed this. Didn't mean not to respond. Been really distancing myself from the movie as best as I can for my sanity. Lots of great internal work, feeling real gratitude. Been some hard times over the last few weeks that will blow your mind. We'll all catch up soon. Today I had to give notes on the final mix. I haven't even seen the locked cut of the film. Evidently it's being worked on, and she's been mixing. I get to give notes as the studio today, not as a director. Very hard, but I'm okay. We made a beautiful baby together. The baby might not grow up to be exactly who we thought, but still beautiful. That's what I'm holding on to." And then the editor comments saying, "The last I heard was that she was still putting back a fair amount of our version, just not sure to what extent. I guess you'll have to find out." Lol. Yeah, the whole thing is like whatever. Yeah. Justin says, if you think about it, we didn't even finish our director's cut because she intervened. So why is the director not being allowed to make a cut of the movie? Isn't that one of the things the director normally does? Because they're the director of the movie. I mean, I do understand these roles vaguely correctly, right? Isn't the director one usually the one that makes the cut of the movie? Isn't it the director's job to like direct the movie? Isn't it sort of in the name? Yeah. If you think about it, we didn't even finish our director's cut because she intervened. So ideally, at some point, we can take a week and just do it together ourselves. But it opens a can of worms. So we'll need to let this play out for a while before we can pull that card. And your door will be knocked on. Nice. Lively was still not satisfied. She continued to extort Wayfarer, Baldoni, even Sony, threatening to abandon her contractual obligation to promote the film or approve marketing materials if she wasn't awarded a producer credit. And though Wayfarer had refused long ago to accede this request when it was made during initial negotiation, Wayfarer now had his back against the wall and had to concede. This still wasn't enough. Lively later sought the coveted PGA mark on her producer credit, a certified designation licensed by the Producer Guild of America to identify producers who had performed the majority of producing work on a major picture. Neither Baldoni nor Wayfarer believed Lively fulfilled the requisite criteria to earn the mark, but that didn't matter to Lively. Lively again demanded with extortion threats that Baldoni, Heath, and other producers and departments heads send letters to PGA in support of her certification for the PGA mark. Despite unanimous recognition of the absurdity and unmistakable extortionate threats, Sony and other parties, despite being adamant not to support Lively's demand for unentitled mark, ultimately acquiesced and sent letters of support. However, Wayfarer, Baldoni firmly resisted. Because Lively did not perform the duties of producer and therefore did not merit the PGA mark, a distinction highly valued and taken seriously within the industry, Wayfarer and Baldoni refused to devalue contributors of actual producers on the film and elsewhere who merited the mark and were unwilling to misrepresent Lively's contributions to the film. Having been forced in the face of extortionate threats to concede to Lively's every demand thus far, they believe it would be dishonest, unethical, and unjust to producers who rightfully earned the mark to falsely represent to the PGA that Lively had fulfilled the requisite production responsibilities. Asking that they lie on their behalf was the final straw, or so they thought. In response, Lively instructed Sony to tell Wayfarer and Baldoni that any goodwill between us is done. Eventually, in the face of persistent threats and extortion, Wayfarer and Baldoni were left with little choice but to draft and sign a letter in support of Lively's behalf, but not before he sent an email to Wayfarer's attorney documenting that they were signing the letter under duress. Nice. Okay, and we've read those letters before, incidentally, on prior streams. At the premiere of the film Approach, Lively made good on her promise and instructed Sony that she and the cast would not participate in any marketing or promotion of the film alongside Baldoni, in spite of Baldoni and Wayfarer's acquisitions to all demands. She made certain that Baldoni was removed from all artwork of the film, posters included, and stripped him of his film buy credit. Lively and Reynolds also unfollowed him on all social media, as did the author of the book, someone who Baldoni had maintained a 5-year personal relationship with and whom Baldoni credited for the opportunity. The other cast members also unfollowed Baldoni, creating the false impression that Baldoni had done something wrong. On information and belief, Lively induced the other cast members to shun Baldoni in an attempt to give fans the impression Baldoni had committed an egregious sin, something so egregious that no one wanted to even take photos with him or have him around. Lively was leaving what she referred to earlier as crumbs, a social media strategy she had learned from close celebrity friends, to give fans just enough to allow them to come to their own conclusions, thereby launching an army of detectives that on information and belief, Lively would hope would turn against Baldoni. The unfollowing of Baldoni by cast members and even the author of the book, whom they had a long-standing relationship with, was done without warning or communication from them, in stark contrast to the warm praise and appreciation cast members had until that point had always showed on him. For example, Isabel Furrer, cast as young Lily, exchanged grateful texts with Baldoni during and after filming stint, which included a number of scenes involving intimacy. Justin Baldoni saying, "You did awesome today. So happy to be working with you." Isabella, "Thank you so much. I'm excited. Thank you for being a great director and so wonderful to work with." Justin, "So kind. More to come. You're going to kill it." Isabella, Hey, just got my film developed from when we were shooting, so this is a sweet pick. I also say thank you much so for a credible experience. And just the rest of it, right? Just nice messages. Tellingly, Furrer worked with Baldoni when Lively was not on set. It was not until Furrer spent substantial time with Lively during production that Furrer felt compelled to shun Baldoni in repudiation of her warm words. It became clear that Lively was laying the groundwork to explain away her theft of the film and exile of Baldoni. Previously, she was concerned that her shocking conduct would be frowned upon if it became widely known. Baldoni had no intention of ever making this information public. In fact, as co-star of the film, both he and the studio, who co-financed the film and spent millions of dollars, had every reason to wait for the film to succeed. Any suggestion otherwise is illogical. Baldoni promoted the film as originally intended, giving Lively full credit and praise, and done everything in his power at every painful turn of making this film with Lively to ensure the film succeeded. He wanted to move on. Lively, however, would not let it go. Baldoni later received word that during the premiere of Deadpool and Wolverine, Reynolds approached Baldoni's agency, namely an executive at WME, and expressed his disdain for Baldoni, suggesting the agency was working with a sexual predator, a phrase that uncoincidentally later appeared in the press, and at a later date demanded the agency drop Baldoni. His wielding of power and influence became undeniable. Baldoni and Wayfarer grew increasingly fearful of what Lively and Reynolds were capable of, as their actions seemed aimed at destroying Baldoni's career and personal life. The pivotal moment terrified Baldoni and ultimately caused him to seek help elsewhere that could protect his reputation, his partners, and his wife, children, and family from false accusations that could ruin their lives. Desperate, terrified, in the position for the first time, he sought expert guidance and was advised to engage a crisis PR to be ready in case Reynolds and Lively decided to unleash their wrath on them. As is customary, a proposal was prepared for him with available measures and quote of each what measure would cost. The proposal, wrongfully obtained from the very public relations company that once represented Baldoni, was later used by Baldoni, or used by Lively, to knowingly and falsely assert that Baldoni had agreed to the most aggressive option in the proposal. Lively falsely and ironically alleges Baldoni set out on a smear campaign to destroy Lively, despite thousands of documents she alleges that would have proved otherwise. Notwithstanding, Lively and her team in the Times worked in concert to cherry-pick, deliberately misconstrue, splice, and alter private communications to manufacture the self-serving narrative. And then there's some images, and we've seen this before, so we'll skip that part. Blah, 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 blah. Meanwhile, Lively systematically excluded from Baldoni from all marketing and promotional effects with her in the cast of the film. He was not invited to cast any promotional events, cast screenings, premieres, photo shoots, or other cast campaigns. Baldoni was marginalized from the marketing process. The purported marketing plan allegedly created by Sony, which was later referenced in Lively's complaint as agreed to by all, was never the plan that Baldoni agreed to. And some more messages there. In fact, after much resistance from the film's distributor, Baldoni from day one made it clear he was making the film to bring awareness to domestic violence and would not refrain from what he's doing to promote the film. Throughout the period, Reynolds and Lively continued to leave breadcrumbs in their campaign for mocking and bullying Baldoni. On July 26th, the film Deadpool premiered starring Reynolds. The film contained a character named Nicepool, also portrayed by Reynolds. Reynolds portrayed Nicepool as a vicious caricature of a woke feminist before concluding the character arc with his violent shooting death at the hands of Ladypool, a character that was voiced by Blake Lively. Upon information and belief, the Nicepool scenes were added to the movie and filmed in January 2024 after January 4th confrontation in Reynolds and Lively's apartment, and were intended to be a transparent and mocking portrayal of Reynolds' warped perception of Baldoni. Nicepool commented inappropriately on females' characters' attractive body after childbirth and excused his remark by claiming he identified as a feminist. Nicepool also made reference to an intimacy coordinator and even used a hairstyle that mirrored Baldoni's previously longer hair. Nice. This further borne out the fact that in the credits for It Ends With Us, Lively expressly thanked Gordon Reynolds, the false name that Reynolds used for his credit for portraying Nicepool. Nice. Lively thanked Gordon Reynolds, which was her husband. Nice. While in Sweden celebrating his wife's birthday, Baldoni was informed that Lively demanded He not attend the film's premiere. Lively further threatened that if Baldoni attended the premiere, she and the majority of the cast would boycott. It remained unclear what Lively communicated to or promised the cast, but they also now refused to attend if Baldoni was present. The fact that Sony advised Wayfarer to concede underscores Lively and Reynolds' immense power. She basically bullied him completely out of the equation. She just is a manipulative person. Baldoni and Wayfarer refused to succumb to the bullying tactics aimed at excluding them from the premiere of the film, a project they had financed, produced, and owned. This threat marked the culmination of a years-long campaign of intimidation, harassment, and civil extortion. Although objectively engaging in egregious and shocking, the Wayfarer team had unfortunately grown accustomed to bullying, fully aware of the immense power this couple wielded and far-reaching extent of their influence. However, they refused to give in to this entirely unreasonable demand and valiantly searched for compromise with Lively so they could attend the premiere of the film Baldoni had directed and co-starred in, and Wayfarer had co-financed and produced. Heath moved mountains to negotiate a scenario with Lively that would permit Lively would permit. Just days after the film's premiere, Baldoni was still unsure if he'd be allowed to attend. His friends and family, most traveling from outside New York, were left in limbo, unable to finalize their travel plans. Baldoni did as best as he could to hide his pain. Despite not seeing the final cut of the movie he co-starred, co-financed, and directed, he wanted to celebrate with his friends and family. Finally, through Sony, Wayfarer persuaded Lively to permit Baldoni and the Wayfarer team to attend, though only under demeaning and humiliating conditions. They were relegated to a separate theater to view the film, required to arrive at a different time than the rest of the cast, and instructed to leave the red carpet immediately once Lively arrived. Baldoni was also excluded from the official after-party, despite being an event that ultimately was paid for by Sony and Wayfarer, so he paid for the after-party and wasn't even allowed to attend it. As a result, Baldoni had to quickly organize and fund a separate after-party for himself, forcing the company to cover two expenses. On arrival, Baldoni began participating on the red carpet in interviews, absent remaining of the cast. However, his time on the red carpet was abruptly cut short when it was conveyed that Lively was on her way, and was instructed to stop immediately. He and his family were quickly ushered away. Security personnel, acting as though there was risk of escape, escorted Baldoni's group to the basement of a building. There, they were confined to a makeshift holding area surrounded by concession stand stock, with only fold-out chairs and tables arranged in a square. That's not nice. Surrounded by close friends, family, and soda balls, and a lot of love, the irony of being held in a basement and was arguably the most important part of their career was not lost by anyone. Yeah, that's not exactly what I think of as a Hollywood party, man. That image, for those of you who are only listening, it's a picture of a bunch of people who are dressed in very nice attire, sitting around what is clearly a foldable table and fold chairs with some popcorn, and you can see the concession stock in the background. That is not exactly the Hollywood grammar I was expecting for my premiere, man. Wow, that's a little bit less than my expectations. Holy shit. Yeah, that's the uncivil budget, man. That's not a Hollywood budget. Damn shit, man. Yeah, there are some more pictures with the stock. That is a very interesting image. People in very, very nice attire standing on pallets with water bottles. That's a thing, man. That is a thing. Wow. Once the main theater was deemed clear, Lively, and the guests, Baldoni and his group were ushered into a separate theater to view the film. At the conclusion of the screening, they were again and quickly escorted out of the building by security to avoid even a chance of interaction with Lively. The Wayfarer after-party, held separate from the celebrity event and attended by crew, family, and other Wayfarer events, was a dry gathering, in part to acknowledge the known negative relationship between alcohol and domestic violence. It was attended by the entirety of the Wayfarer team from Los Angeles and family and friends. The atmosphere and tone of the party were aligned with Baldoni's version of the film, focusing on celebrity, celebration, and gratitude despite the humiliation. In the meantime, Baldoni was sidelined as Lively and Sony pressed forward with their promotional strategy for the film. By contrast, Baldoni's marketing plan, outlined his initial proposal to Sony years prior, shared with Lively, and communicated numerous times to both Sony and Lively, centered on the partnership with the organization No More. Founded in 2013, No More is a global initiative aimed at raising awareness, inspiring actions, and sparking conversation. Wayfair's collaboration with the organization began in 2022. Staying true to his purpose for the firm, Baldoni prioritized amplifying the voices of survivors. In the end, empowered by our celebrity firepower and powerful allies, Lively did exactly what she set out to do. She took someone else's movie for her own, destroying years of creative vision. But why would Lively do this? On information and belief, Lively was motivated by a number of factors. She may want to seize control of the film so she can take over production of the sequel. It starts with us. The motivation also explains why the cast, who may have been hoped or promised a role in subsequent production, would choose to side with a powerful couple when they themselves believe they could be destroyed, Baldoni and Wayfair, and forced to concede the rights to the sequel. Or Lively may have felt the need to match her husband's Ryan Reynolds, who's widely reported to insist on taking so much control over the film Deadpool 2, the director left the production. Nice. Seeing the fame and success that Reynolds commanded, she may have adopted his off-repeat pattern wholesale to seize her own power and control. Following his lead and evidenced by many statements that Lively is involved in every project she works on, Lively and Reynolds, accustomed to getting their way, perhaps fell entitled. Regardless of why they seized control of the film, this is precisely what she did. There is no justification for Machiavellian, nice word choice, and civilly extortionist tactics, true facts, deployed to grab control of the film. Lively also sought ultimate control over the film and boosting her own brand. In the end, through Lively's words and promotional strategy, led to an avalanche of negative press. Well, my friends, we are going to conclude reading for now. We have made it to page 112 of page 224, so we're exactly halfway through this complaint. Not bad for 2 parts. So at this pace, it looks like 4 parts to get through the complaint, maybe 5. And then also, of course, more parts for the attachment. So we have more parts to go. But we have read quite a lot of pages today, and my voice is tired. And my continuing thoughts continue to be, first of all, praise to this attorney for this excellent job. Nice interweaving of primary source material into the complaint. Nice use of that. And good job at storytelling without being overwrought, which is difficult. So this attorney definitely earned their pay today. They definitely earned their pay. And they're telling a very, very interesting story. And it'll be very interesting to see, how much this all pans out for. So we will see how it all pans out in the end. But that is enough of that for now. And then on a different topic, stop. I don't want to talk. I don't want you. There was something I was looking at. There was a watch I was looking at. And I wanted to get your thoughts because I thought it's very nice. I was thinking about it. $300 though, so I'm like, oh no. But it's interesting. Where is my hold on. Oh, okay, here we go. So this watch was grabbing my attention today. See what you guys think about it. This Seiko Prestige automatic with the green dial. That looks pretty sharp. $300, but $263 with a coupon code. So if I can get it for $260 on eBay, I'm very tempted. I mean, look at that. That is just a very, very beautiful watch. And that green dial is very, very cool. So I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it. You can take the band off, obviously, put it on a NATO or something. Probably take the band off. But that's just like a really beautiful, like clean field watch. And that green is just really beautiful with the gold accent. Nice. Yeah, looks nice. I'd probably replace the strap. It's probably a genuine leather strap, but I'd probably replace it. Put it on a NATO. Put it like on a green NATO. I put it on a green NATO. That'd be cool, man. Put on a green NATO. That'd be cool. Or even like a gold NATO. That'd be cool. Like, so you could match the color. That'd be really cool. Have I seen the Alpinist? I'm very familiar with the Alpinist. The Alpinist is a very cool watch, but I don't know. I think this might be more my style. Plus, this is a lot cheaper than the Alpinist. It's like half the cost of the Alpinist. The Alpinist is like a $750 watch or a $699 watch. And this is $260. Plus, personally, the Alpinist, it's a beautiful watch, but the internal compass ring, I don't know. Yeah. A stainless steel strap. You could do a lot of things. So yeah, the Alpinist is a cool watch, but I don't know. This is very, very clean. Although the Alpinist is a cool watch. For those of you who are not familiar with what he's talking about, I'll show you the Seiko Alpinist. It is a beautiful watch too. You can get it for $580 right now. That's exciting. So, but it's still like about twice as much. Here's the Seiko Alpinist. So you have so just to remind you what this watch looks like. So they're very, very similar in design, right? So this one has the sort of the same green and gold. Then the Alpinist has this with just a kind of a plain green background. It does have the Cyclops for the date, but it's also got this internal chapter ring for navigation. So it's got two crowns on it. So it's got a crown for the internal bezel, so you can like navigate with it and stuff. Not that I'd ever use it, but you could hypothetically. This one's $700. This one's $699, but this one you can apparently buy for $580. So which one do you guys like better? This one has gold hands. I have to say I do kind of like the white hands with the gold accent. That's kind of cool. But the solid gold is pretty cool. And it's $309 versus $580. Although the Alpinist is more of a classic. That's true. The Alpinist is more of a classic, so it will probably hold its value better. I don't know. So those are the watches I'm looking at right now. So if you guys have any thoughts on those competing watches, that's what I'm thinking. The first one, yeah. So it's cleaner, simpler. It's got that dragon scale, which is kind of cool. It's got that dragon scale face, which is pretty badass, as opposed to the Alpinist, which is just a solid green, which is also badass in its own right. Don't buy watches for investment. I'm not buying watches for investment. I'm just saying that between the two, the Alpinist will probably hold its value better. Yeah, the scaling is very nice. So $263, $264. So I'm thinking about it. So could be cool. All right, well, I'll let you guys ponder that for a while as I sign off for now. I need lunch. It's definitely lunchtime. And then maybe we'll be on later today. Probably not with this story, not with part 3, but I might be on later today with Garth Brooks. I might do a Garth Brooks part 3 because I still need to pick up on that story, or something else that's happening in the news. We'll see what happens, but we'll be on later. And thanks, guys, for all your support and for hanging out with me. It's been fun. I've been on Civil Law. Until later, my friends, I hope all's well for now. Cheers for now, my friends, and goodbye.